Last week we explored how the Democratic Party was formed, and now I'd like to do the same and explore how the Republican Party was formed. The American political party system essentially emerged from the debate over ratification of the Constitution in 1788 and 89, with the Federalists supporting the Constitution and national government, and the Republicans, later called Democrats, opposing it and wanting state power to prevail over national power. And in the early years of the Republic, you had the Democratic Republicans, led by Jefferson, who wanted state power, against the Federalists, led by Hamilton, Washington, and Adams, who wanted federal and national power. But after the elections of 1800, when Jefferson was elected, and 1804, when he was overwhelmingly reelected, the Federalist Party faded out of existence. It didn't even run a candidate in the elections of 1820, and it basically died. But the impetus didn't die with it. The impetus of of strong federal government continued. And during the Jackson presidency, it crystallized over the issue of a national bank that would fund internal improvements and operate as just like the Federal Reserve does now, controlling the currency and so forth. Jackson opposed that, being a states' rights person, and the Henry Clay, senator from Kentucky, was the leader of the forces in favor of the bank. After Jackson won that controversy, the pro-bank forces crystallized into what became known as the Whig Party, named after the Whig Party in Britain. And it coalesced with the anti-slavery forces. And there was a Whig abolitionist coalition that ran in the elections of the 1840s and early 50s. At the first, they won elections largely on a policy of having military heroes who they built up like crazy in a grassroots campaign with parades and everything, like William Henry Harrison, where they said Tippecanoe and Tyler too. Tippecanoe because that was the battle Harrison had won. And then 4 years later, they got Zachary Taylor elected, again a war hero from the Mexican War, under the slogan of Old, Rough, and Ready. But eventually the Whig Party fell apart over the issue of slavery, which also divided the Democratic Party. But with the Whig Party, there really weren't enough Southern Whigs to constitute a political party, and the northern branch of the Whig Party moved to a strict isolationist position. At that point, the Democrats acquired sort of a monopoly over federal office. Franklin Pierce was elected in 1852, a Democrat, Buchanan another Democrat in 1856, and the Democratic Party looked like it would be unopposed. But then a bunch of the Whigs, combined with the abolitionists, combined with an anti-immigration party called the Know-Nothings, got together and set up the Republican Party as an alternative to the Democratic Party, advocating a strong federal government, opposing slavery, opposing the slave power that dominated the South. Their first candidate for president was James C. Fremont, who was a general/explorer who really opened up California to migration from the East and was sort of a national hero on the order of Lewis and Clark. He was defeated, but came very close to winning. Had he won one or two other northern states, he would have beaten Buchanan. And then in 1860, as we've talked about in other videos, Lincoln won the nomination of the Republican Party and cruised to victory over a divided Democratic Party, divided into the pro-slavery wing under John Breckinridge, who had been Buchanan's vice president, and the anti-slavery wing under Stephen Douglas, the senator from Illinois who'd beaten Lincoln in the Lincoln-Douglas debate elections. And then the Republican Party proceeded to control a monopoly on power from 1860 to 1884, reinforced by the notion that the Democratic Party came to be identified as the party of the Confederacy, the party of the South, the party of the slave power, and it wasn't until 1884 that the Democrats were able to make a comeback. Have a nice Memorial Day weekend.